Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. So, I was going to show you how I do the mix and master thing. This is just a rough mix and master because what I do is when I'm done with the entire record, I have all the songs recorded, I'll then do, one song at a time. I'll be doing it on camera, and I'll really go through and, get it ready for release and do all the things that are necessary. This will just be a rough mix, rough mastering job, like it's not done yet. I won't even record it, but I'll show you how to do it in case you've never done this before, or if you don't know anything about what the Zoom can do as far as mastering and mixing goes. I think this is kind of where the unit shines, and like makes the unit usable, is this feature, because sometimes the recordings, they sound good, but unless you go through this process on the Zoom before you output, you may not get as good results as you think you should. So I always recommend, learning how to do this. I learned how to do it on the original Zoom R24 forum. I don't know if that still exists or not anymore. I couldn't find it at one point because I wanted to find the original post I found that taught me how to do this, and post that on the page, on the YouTube page, to help people. But I can't find it anymore. But it's pretty easy to do. So I've got this song and that I've been recording over the past few days, or like a past month or so, however long it's been, couple months to get the whole thing done. I guess it was during December, and I recorded the drums, then I recorded the guitar, then I recorded the bass, finally the vocal, and I'm just now listening to it, and I may have to re-record some vocal stuff, little bits here and there if I hear something that's off. Like I've got this little end bit that doesn't sound great. I could keep working on that, but overall I feel like it's kind of there. It's like the vocal works for what it is. It's sort of I didn't put a lot of time into perfecting every little bit of it because the style of the song is not the most precious style of singing as to start with, so I kind of like the way it sort of sounds natural and not perfectly sculpted. Okay, so the way you get better output and better tone, like sounds from the more professional sound out of the Zoom, like a finished product that you can be proud of at the end, you have to do a couple things. So the last time that I recorded, I was recording a vocal. So if we go up to the effect button here, and you go up to the first of all, turn it on, so it has on off. You turn the wheel till it or go to the arrow until it's on, and then you go to algorithm, and I'm going to roll that thing around from dual mic all the way over to mastering. Now you're going to take it down to the next little spot, and that's the patch. And the patch, you can just leave it in the first one if you want. There's different ones that do different things. For some reason, just this plus alpha is the one that I always work with. It has the most basic settings I can quickly adjust, and it sounds natural and clear. It doesn't do anything super big as far as like compressing anything or too much of anything. It just seems to be like a good setting. But you could experiment and run through those, but and each one of them do something different. Some of them do something very dramatic. Like I remember on here there's a live PA type one, and that works great for when you're recording a band live, to have it in that setting when you master it. But I'm going to just stick with the first one. Then the input screen, this is important because you can do 1 to 2 tracks, like you could be doing 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, so on and so forth, all the way up to 24. So you want to make sure you have this one set on master so that all 24 tracks are affected in the mix. And then we go to edit, and this is really important because I don't like the way the EQ is set. It's way too much bass and just it's not fine-tuned to my ears or to yours, so you'll want to mess with that for sure. So here we have the compression, and it's lo-fi, it says, and it's at a three band compressor, and where the crossover low is 50, crossover high is 50 hertz. I'm going to just leave that there. There's no reason to mess with that. I mean, if you want to, you can, but I'm happy with how they crossed it over. And on the high, I'm going to go to 5, and on the mid, I'm going to bring that down to 5, and then I'm going to go low down to 5. And this is just the beginning settings. You can always go back and readjust, but this is what I'll do for now. Okay, and then I'm going to go down to mix high. That's at 2, and you can leave it at 202. I've done that before and it works. But I'm going to just make all of these 5. I want more. Especially with this song, because there's not a lot of like distorted mid-range guitar filling up the space. There's not like a lot of rhythm chord playing, you know, that kind of fills everything up with like a distorted guitar. That ain't happening in this song. There's a lot more like sonic space. It's a Stratocaster and it's more riff oriented and like single note stuff more than, or like just, you know, playing riffs and licks as opposed to just filling up the space with chord play. Alright, so mix low is 5. Now I'm going to move over to the normalizer and completely disarm it by putting the gain at 0. I mean, not disarming it, but minimizing its impact. It's not going to add any gain past unity gain, so it's on 0. The 3-band EQ, bass, I'll go to 5. This is just a test thing. We can always readjust, but I'm going to go 5, 5, 5 on that as well. Level is 62. You can experiment with that. I usually leave that there. Dimension, reso type thing, that's like a noise reduction thing. The room kind of vibe thing, I never have that on. And the patch level is 24. The NZR, I'm going to put that on 0. I do not like any type of noise reduction, including Dolby. Can't stand it. I'd rather have a little bit of hiss and noise that can keep all my signal than roll everything off and make it sound dull, just so that you don't hear any static or any like extra sound. So I'm not obsessed with that. I guess maybe if I was making really quiet music I would, but this is already loud as hell anyway, so who cares? I want the sound. Okay, now I'm putting the headphones on so I can monitor what's going on, and I'm going to disarm the tracks except for the drums. I've got 6 tracks up front that I'm using, and then 8 tracks in the back, and it's really just 4 tracks, but I double them. So that's something I do going in to help with the mastering process, just to make the Zoom sound better. On my drums, I record with 4 mics, 1 on the snare, 2 overhead, 1 back here for the bass drum that's kind of pulled out a little bit from the bass drum. So it's 4 total mics, but each one I double just to make the sound bigger and more robust. And then everything else, I just do a vocal, I double that, not doubling a singing, but just put 2 of them in there. And then the guitar, I record in stereo, bass, I record direct. Okay, so now we're in the mastering phase, and the first thing you want to do, or you'll blow your eardrums up if you're wearing headphones or if you're worried about your monitors being, blown to bits. This is going to be a mono monitor that's not great, so it won't sound great, but it's just to give you an idea of how to do this. But you want to pull your master down all the way, like if you have it at unity gain at 0 or whatever, you want to bring it all the way down because it's going to be way louder because of the mastering. It's boosted the gain by a lot and changed everything. The EQ brings the levels up. So you really want to just pull it down to start with, because you want to ease it back into position and get it where it's peaking just where you want it to, where it's not hitting the red. But -6 type of deal. Okay, so I'm going to exit. The screen is ready. We have the back row of the drums. I'll bring them all down to, like a moderate level, and then I'll just start mixing it up and getting it where we want it. Okay, so we're going to hit play, and we should hear the drums start. Okay, I'm going to bring the level up a bit, and then try to get individual drum tracks to sound just right. Here we go. Okay, so I just eyeballed the channel strip. Now what I'm going to do is just make sure that it really is the same. I'll go to 1724 by hitting Pan EQ, make sure I'm in the last row. I'm in track 17. I'm going to go down and look at the volume, and it was on 68. So the next one I want on 68. And I'm going to roll it down with my wheel here. And then I'm going to go to the next one, 70. And that's 70. Wow, that's pretty good. 70. 71, I'll roll that back to 70, 70, 68. Okay, so that'll go to 70. So I'm kind of like in the 70 range with the drums, and all of them are the same, and they look the same on the channel strip. So you got this thing going here. Okay, now let's just hear the drums, and then we'll go back. That was loud. We'll go back and I will start adding guitars in. So I think the drums are going to just sound better right away because of what we just did. I'm going to add a little bass in. I actually went up to 10 on the comp, lo-fi, the compressor. So let's see what happens if that continues to sound good once I put vocals and guitars in. The drums just sounded like they wanted a little bit more bass. And I can also add bass on the EQ of the channels. Let's actually do that. Let me go back to the master, hit edit. I'm going to bring that bass back down to 5. And instead, I will add it on the channel strip. So let's go to the pan EQ button, go to 24. I'm adding bass on each channel. The bass drum, the 2 bass drums, mics. That's nice. Okay, so I went through the drums and added 10 on the bass of each one, and it didn't feel like it was pushing too much bass, but it's giving me more of a Hammer of the Gods vibe. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. I'm on the first track row, and I'm going to enable all those. Okay, so I have all the tracks on that are in play. That's 6 of them. And here we go. We should hear everything come in now. You don't want to try it, and I'm gonna buy it. I still can't hide it. Okay, I'm going to turn the vocal off. I'm going to turn the drums off for a second. And I want to get to these guitars real quick. Just hear what we have here. Okay, I'm going to do a little EQ work on these guitars just to get a little more boost, a little more. So I've got nothing going on. I'm going to go 5, 5, 5. Here we go. Okay, that I put 5 on the low, mid, and high on both tracks just to give it some more ass, you know, a little more something. Nice.
gonna light it, I sure can't hide it. Oh yes, these things inside me, you should never.
Okay, so that's the vocal. Oh, okay, no wonder the vocal's panned off to the side. I thought it sounded weird. So I'll get that straightened out. That should be center and center. I thought one of them was off to one side. Okay, the guitar. Okay, the guitars were screwy too. Wait, that one should be center. This is a vocal, that should be center. You have to check all this stuff because if you swap tracks around, whatever you had to swap on, it'll keep that EQ or that setting. Okay, now the guitars, I'm going to make left 50, give it a little more clarity. Left 50 and right 50 on the pan. And you pan by going pan EQ and using your wheel. You'll see left right. I'm at right R50 and the track 4 is L50, so left and right. And we'll move over to bass. Bass should be down the center. Okay, and I don't have any reverb or chorus happening. Okay, now let's just see what happens when we play the whole thing back. See if I can get something to kind of sound good.
You know I'm gonna try it, and I'm gonna buy it. I sure can't hide it. Oh yes.
Okay, let me get the drums back on. That's always satisfying to get 4 channels to turn on at once. Alright, here we go.
You know I'm gonna try it, and I'm gonna buy it. I sure can't hide it. Oh yes, these things inside me, you should never try it. Baby, I'm gonna buy it. Oh yes, I'm a 20th century man. Got no reason to care. Might be something you've seen before. Got no reason. Got no reason. No drink, no smoke. Yes. No drink, no smoke. Yes. In time we're rolling, and we're smoking. Right, let's go to it. Yes. You know I'm smoking, and I'm rolling. Let's show one more. Yes. You know it's something special. Now we're gonna share. Guess it's something you've seen before. Got no reason, got no reason. More drink, more smoke. Yes, more drink, more smoke. Yes. These things inside me, you should never try me. I'm not gonna fly with me. I guess I'm a 20th century man. Got no reason to care. Might be something you've seen before. Got no reason. Got no reason. No drink, no smoke. Yes.
little ha, I'll pull those way down so they won't, you know, jump out too hard. Okay, so that is it. That's it. And I think that that's a pretty good mix as far as like, you know, the levels. Like the guitar is hot, bass is hot, vocal, I like it to be hot and heard, but I want it to sink, you know, sink into the mix a little bit and be more like an instrument. My most dreaded mix is when the vocal is hot over the rest of the song. It's like so overbearing, it kind of just ruins everything. You just wish that somehow it'd be lower. We made a tape once that was a really good tape, had like good songs on it, and we had success in the studio and with this guy before, but it was a rush job on the mix, and the vocals are hot, and it just makes it unbearable almost, especially if you're the vocalist, to listen to it when the vocal's sitting too hot. You don't want to sink it too low. Mick Jagger was notorious for that. If you go listen to Exile on Main Street, he really brought that vocal down. He wanted the vocal to be almost confusing to the listener, like where they'd have to really strain for the words. He had some interesting concepts and ideas about mixing that I find fascinating, because most vocalists want their vocal to be loud, not to the point where it's sitting on the mix and ruining everything, but you know, they want it prominent. And he actually wanted to bring it down. And in the world of indie rock and sometimes punk and things like that, the vocal is, you don't want to sound too good, you know? You don't want to be singing too well. It's kind of funny, you know, how rock and roll can be. All right, so, like you don't hear a lot of vibrato in punk rock. You don't hear like finishing notes perfectly. And, you know, even in rock and roll, that's the whole thing that people used to beef on it for, is that nobody could sing. The idea of singing in rock and roll is completely different. You sing in order to create an effect, not to be a perfect singer. You know, like you would if you're singing at church or like opera or something, where you're trying to be as good as you can technically. You know, always having your technical chops together so that the notes are always delivered as well as they can be delivered. In rock and roll, you might be distorting your voice a certain way to create a certain effect that's not like the proper way to sing, but it creates such a great sound that everybody would much rather listen to that vocal style than the person who's singing perfectly with perfect technique or whatever. Okay, so hopefully this helped. I'm going to bring the camera in and try to show some of these angles up close on the zoom, just to help eliminate confusion, because this thing, you know, like any kind of unit, can be a little bit of a Rubik's Cube to unlock and get the most out of it, because it really is a weird feeling to use something for a while and then suddenly find another element of the machine that you hadn't used before, and suddenly the machine becomes much more usable and exciting to have, because you unlock all of its little secret attributes. Next time.